באתי לגני אחרי סיכלו, מי ועלו להמשיך מאמרים מי היו לו, מה שקוס במדרש לגני לגנוני. במוקם שיקרה בתחילה, the first shaila is, the medrash, the pasuk of Basi Legani, is the marshal is that the chassan ka'ol shel hashirim is the chassan with the kala, the whole arichas advarim, and then it says Basi Legani achei kala that the chassan meets the kala in the gan, and the nimshal is going on the hamshachas of the hezgalas of course there was by Matan Torah or by Binyan HaMishkan, so that's when there was the hezgal hashras hashchina lamata ba'aretz. So the shaila is l'chura, the lashon Basi Legani is mashma that this gan was already to begin with. Before he came, this gan already was the chassan's gan. Now there is ended Nimshal. They say that the Zgalas Elokudu was Amshachas Hashchina Lamata Ba'aretz Matan Torah. That means that Elam Hazah was already the Eibusher's gan. L'chura Nishis, l'chura in Pashas Advarim, the world is a place that is Elam V'Hester, and Elam Lashon Elam V'Hester. And the Pashas, the Gemara also said that the first time that Shechina Yard Lamata Miyud, that's a Ma'amet Har Sinai, Elam Yard Shechina Lamata Miyud. So what does it mean that the world is considered already Gani, and he erst came, Matan Torah, that's when he erst came Lamata. So them Dr. Medrash that Legani is Legnuni, that means that it was Take, his Gan, it was already Mokim Dirasa even before he came by Matan Torah, or 2 days of Medrash if Legani is going on Matan Torah, if the Basi Legani is going on Matan Torah or Binyan HaMishkan. But the Nekodah is that even before the Binyan HaMishkan, the Eibusher was already, this is already his place, it was already his Gan. So then Dr. Medrash, L'makim Shahaya Ikri Batchila, that the Taka Batchila Sabriya, Ikri Shechina B'Tachlenim Eses, the fact that there was this Hamshachas Shechina Lamata, Meshas Matan Torah Binyan HaMishkan, it wasn't this Chadish, a Naizach, was Eresh Gevarin Yamol, but the world, Milchatchila, is Ganish L'Akadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibusher's Dira. Gnuni is just that the Makim Diras HaChasen, or Makim Diras HaChasen V'Akala is not in the garden. They had a Gnuni, they had a special Dira, a special Makim Mishkan in the Gan. It's not the Gnuni is not the get to this Gan. It was his garden. It was his makim dirase. Where's the makim adira in the Gan? So they have there's a word for it. Yeah, a gazebo in the garden. So they have a makim dira where that's where they sit and they enjoy the mara yafa of the Gan. But the nekuda is that the fact that there was Amshar Shechina Lamata Ba'aretz Matan Torah wasn't Nischadish then, but L'Chatchila Elam Hazeh was the Eibusher's Gan. This was makim dirase. So if them zos talk to Take Medrash that L'makim she'ikra Batchila, that Betchila Sabriya Ikra Shechina B'Tachtonim, that the premise of Elokus, and where was the Rasi of the Eibusher was B'Tachtonim. But mainly this world is Ganish L'Akadosh Baruch Hu. Ebazei was given später. So why was there? What would happen to Matan Torah? If them zok to the Medrash, Elashachar Kach Hina Yedei Chiti Tzadas V'Chatoim Shel Achri Zeh Silkos Hashchina Me'oretz L'Rekia Aleph. So through the Chatoim, so they're Mesalik the Shechina, V'Achar Kach L'Rekia Beis Ad L'Rekia Ashvi. After the Silik HaShechina, V'acharkach is Chila Avidozi Shel Avram, which was the Aved of Avram, Sheher Tzeh Shechina Merikia Zayin Levav. And that's the Tzaddikim, Avram, Yitzchak, the Medrash goes through the Pratei Advarim of the Tzaddikim, each one was Mamsheh the Shechina closer to Elam Hazeh. Ache B'Moshe Shu Hashvi, V'chol Hashvi in Chavivin, Sheher Tzeh Shechina V'echzira La'aretz. That means the Iker Dira, where is the Etzem? The Etzem is Dafka Elam Hazeh. So the Aved of the Tzaddikim before, Safka said there wasn't the main point. The Diras HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Diras HaEtzem is Lamata Ba'aretz. They only did the preparation, the Achana. The Iker Tachas is to bring Iker Shechina Lamata Ba'aretz. But Moshe, she was the Shvi, Tarzechik ben Chol HaShvi in Chavivin, is a special Chavivis in the Shvi, as Ardur Gefer the Tachlis, which is that the Shechina should be Lamata Ba'aretz. The Gnuni L'makom Sha'ikir Batchila. And this Aved is not just the Aved of Moshe Rabbeinu, but in them Bashtei, the Aved doesn't show Bnei Yisrael. Amir Kulam Tzadikim, the Rebbe Bashtei Aved of Vayid, the Aved of Vayid is, the Medrash says that that's the Aved of Tzadikim, Mamsheh Shechina L'mayil Lamata. Chagach on the Shiva Tzadikim. So then Dr. Rebbe, Amir Kulam Tzadikim, then Bashtei Aved of every single Yid. Mishikasu, where do we see that it was Bashtei Aved of Vayid? Is to be Mamsheh the Shechina Lamata Ba'aretz. Mishikasu Tzadikim Yishu Aretz V'yishkinu La'adala. So the Pashto Pshat is that Tzadikim are Yeirish Gan Eden. And they're going to be there forever. They're going to yarshin through their Aved of Torah and Mitzvahs. They're going to yarshin Eretz. They're going to yarshin Gan Eden. And they're going to be there, la'adul el me'ilama. They're going to have the Elav Hashvi, Menucha, Shabbos, Menucha L'chai Elama. Them Taishin, the Maimer Nishta. The Pshim is the Taish is Tzadikim Yishu Aretz. Hainush, Tzadikim Yishu Aretz. Why? Because they're Aved Bashteit in Yishkinu la'adul. They're Aved Bashteit l'fishehem, Mashkinim, Mamshichim B'chinas Ad. It brings her that Ad is the B'china of Mori V'Kodesh. It means the Nekuda is, the B'china of Ad is, the way the Eibishter is higher than Elamis, the way is Merema V'Nizka from Elamis, Mori V'Kodesh. So the pchin of ad here v'yishkinu la'ad olad, that the avodah of tzaddikim is the avodah of yidis to be mamshech the pchin of ad, which is the remus of Elokus, we even call it the ein sof, the etzem of Elokus, that should be meir lamata in elam hazeh. She be gili lamata. Dira means that the elyon, the etzem should be gili lamata. So there's two pratim. The inyan of dira is dira that the atzmi sa'adam darba dira. That which part of the person is a person in his home is not the way he's suiting himself to a certain matzav. The person, the way he is batzmusay, that part of him is what's which is in the dira. Etzem adam is darba dira. So there is in the nimshal the kavanah of dira b'tachtenim hays that there should be this galus etzem lamata. And dira means not that the etzem should be here, but in a way that he's not he's behelim, that he's bisalmus. But the etzem should be begili lamata. That's dira b'tachtenim means that the tacht in the mata should be a place where there the elyon is meir begili. So the elyon is the pchin of Marav Kodesh. Not a darga of Elokus. Elokus is be'erech ha'elumis. The way a darga of Elokus comes begvul. But the way the Eibusher is Merema v'niska, Marav Kodesh, Pchinas Ad, which is the Eibusher the way is higher than Elumis. That's in Beif and Klali the Etzem. And that Etzem should be begili lamata. So Meir is begali in Tachtein. Hainu liish leizor dira b'tachtein. So then b'shteit the arbet v'nayid, v'nayederit. That's also his mamshich nemaimber there in Tafshin Yud. Shemiyad lachem matan Torah was the bitul exer. There was he gave this in a square for there to be the gili of the etzem lamata, but then it has to be carried out lepoil. So that's why right after matan Torah, nemra de meisha tzivui v'osili mikdash v'shechanti b'seichem. What's the matter of this? Right after matan Torah, what's the ufta matan Torah? Bitul exer in order for there to be the gili of etzem lamata. To make the tacht and to make elam hazakeli that Elokus, the etzem of Elokus should be meir begoli lamatos. Of them, gleich noch matan Torah, there was the tzivui v'osili mikdash v'shechanti b'seichem. And Shetiyah Shras Shechinasi is barich b'seichem. It's not just to build a mikdash that the Eibusher should have a place where there. The kavanah is what's the purpose of the whole inna matan Torah b'din Mishkan? There should be gilui Elokus lamata. In ganzelam hazeh. Every single so the kavanah is v'shechanti b'seichem by every single yid b'seichel echad v'echad. There should be gilui Elokus every single person his guf and his avash b'hamis and chelke ba'elam. There should be gilui Elokus lamata. Every person, the kavanah is in every corner of elam hazeh. There should be dira b'tachtein. And that's the tzivui v'asili mikdash, that in Bas Bashteit, once there was bit like Zayr, in Bas Bashteit the Arbet, to use this kayach and to actually bring a lukus lamata, to call echad v'echad in his mitzias, there should be gila lukus lamata. Now, Vas Paraeifim Vert, this Indian, that there should be a Shras Shchinas is Baruch B'Seichem Sikol Echad V'Echad, that's through the Shras Shchin of the Mishkan. Means the Binyan Mishkan was the let's say the marker from where a Yid has the kayach to be able to be mamshech Shchina, every single person B'Seicol Echad V'Echad. So the kavanah is not just learn at Pashtus. Is Yidden have their life, you have their daldamas, it stands out up in Digla, and then you have a mishkan in order for you to bring karbanis or to shalish palma shani rokol schorcha. So you need a place in the world where there the Eibusher's presence is felt. The feeling was in the mind, but that the whole kavanah sabriya is there should be dirleis bar v'tachtein, that the mitzias ha'elam should be meir lekus begali. So the mishkan, that's the say what the kavanah is. There should be v'shchanti b'seichem b'seichol echad v'echad, that every person in his mitzias darkness will sign kedei lekus. Vivertes through the Mishkan. The different Biyurim Chassidus, the Mishkan is out there as the Mayach. So the Mayach is the Makar, the highest of all the other Evarim. But the Mishkan is not a tachlis for itself that there should be a Lukus in one place in the world. The Mishkan was the Makar that from there a Yid has the Kaya to bring a Lukus b'seichel echad v'echad. Now that's the Matara. The Matara is not just there should be the presence of a Lukus in the Mishkan, but through the Mishkan there should be the Shechanti b'seichem b'seichel echad v'echad. Because the whole kavanah of the Mishkan is dirle is varach v'tachtein. That's the Pnimi Seinan. So the Seikol Echad Echad Adeh Shras Hashchina b'Mishkan Shehu HaMikdash. The Elam was with me, yeah? The Ashkechon Mikdash the Ikri Mishkan v'Mishkan the Ikri Mikdash. The pasuk says also the Mikdash. So this is not only the feeding of the Maimer is Mavayer that when they get to the Binyan HaMishkan, how in the Binyan HaMishkan you see that in Yoni is not stand there should be a place in the world where there should be his Galas Holocaust. But the Kavanah is last is that Tachtin should be a Keli Holocaust. That the world should be a keli, that there should be Meir Elokus Begilui. So the same Nekudah. The Mikdash and the Mishkan are both one Indian. Mikdash is Ikri Mishkan and Mishkan the Ikri Mikdash. So it's Mvar beHamshich HaMaimer. Where do you see that the Indian of Ashras Hashchin and the Mishkan Ikri Inyani is in order for there to be the ufta of Dir Leizar v'Tachtein, there should be Ashras Hashchina by every single Yid. Chol Echad V'Echad. So them is Mvar beHamshich HaMaimer. That's also the beer why the Avedus HaIkris the Mishkan is Avedus HaKarbanos. What was that? The Rambam says that the whole kavanas binyan Mishkan, the mitzvah is last is bayish yemuchan lahakrev kavanas. The figure says that's avedus ikris of the Mishkan. Kavanas. Why is the aveda ikris kavanas? Because what's the inner kavanas is lashon kiruv. So it's Kirov Kol HaKeiches. So that's the Nekuda of Shechanti B'Seicham, B'Seichol Echad V'Echad, that Yitzhi be Mekarev his Metzias, Telukus. Be Mekarev his whole Metzias, all his Keiches HaNefesh. And Vu darfen sie Meile sein, the same we get to the Betachlein. The Kavana is that in the Tacht and the Shabi B'Izgalos, wished Pchina, the Etzem Velukus. So Al-Derech Zeh, you see these two in Yad, I mean carbon. On one hand, carbon is Lashon Kirov, to Mekarev the entire person to the Eibishter, to take his Metzias, and that it should be a Kedi Telukus. And so, was for a Dargen Telukus, Kshem Shar Carbon, Eile L'Maila, Draza Dein Sof, Kirov, where you say you're being Mekarev your Keicher, to Shar Mitzadatzman distant, you have to be Mekarev them. You have to make them near to who? To Raza the Ein Sof, to the Ein Sof, which is Shalei Berech higher than Elumis. So you see in the Avedas, Ikar Aved of the Mishkan, which is Karbonis, that in Yoni is to make the Metzias HaTacht and a Dira Leis Barich, the Dira to the Etzem, okay, to this Galas Etzem. So that is where you see the of Dira B'Tachtei, the Aved, the La'achre B'Din HaMishkan. Now the Rebbe adds that in the building of the Mishkan itself, you also see that in Yoni is the Indian of Lasis Leis Barich Dira B'Tachtei. It says Va'itza is not only in the La'achre we have the Mishkan already. So the Aveda, Ikris is Karbonis, which there in the Kudav Karbonis is being Mekarev, the Tacht into the Eldian, Ad Raza Dein Sof, but also Sham Mishkan Nasa Me'atze Shittim. Mishkan was made from Atze Shittim. Shemehem Nasa Akroshim. The walls were made from the Atze Shittim. Mishikosu Vasisus Akroshim La Mishkan Atze Shittim Aimdim. Was made this by Aveda? Was after the diuk they use Atze Shittim. None of Aveda saw Adam Shittim Hu Inyin Shtus Dulumaz. That the figure of Meir by is that there is Shtus Bepashtus means Narish. I think it was Meir over there that there's Yosher, that there's the Aveda Adam, there's Seichel, and that's called the Anhaga B'derech Yishor, and then there is Shtus, that a person is Neite Miderech Emes, Neite Miderech HaSeichel. And that itself, in the Netir Miderech HaSeichel, there's Shtus D'Kedusha and there's Shtus D'Lumazeh. So Shittim is going on Shtus D'Lumazeh, which that is Klolos in Yonah Elam She'ein Elam Emes, Ela Alma D'Shikra. So the world doesn't represent the truth. The truth is that the world is called Mitziyusei, is Batal Tolukus, and this Havas Elam is B'dvar Havai Shemayim Nasu. And the world doesn't represent that truth. It's Alma D'Shikra. The Metzias Elam is not in a state of bittul to the Makar, but the Metzias Elam is Margish its own Metzias. So the world is not, is a Azasart Metzias, which is not Kfi Emes, Elam HaSheker. And was besteht der Arbe, to use this Tacht, this Elam, which is an Alma D'Shikra, use this Shtos, what's the Chaymer with what to make the Mishkan? The Chaymer is Eitzim of Shtus. What does it mean Eitzim of Shtus? To use the Chaymer of Shtus D'Lumaz, the Sheker of Elam. Does that from Achana, that should be a Keli, that should be a Dira, that should become a Mishkan Leis Baruch. So that you see that the whole Nekuda of the Mishkan is to make from Elam Hazat Tachtin a Dira Leis Baruch Tachtin. If it's just that there should be a place where the Eibishter is present, so why do you have to take Dafke Atzim and make Nemen Azalcha Eitzim, which have to do with Shtus? Take a loftier type of Chaymer. The Nekuda is just that the Eibishter should be here. So what's the word that the Mishkan has to be made Dafke of Matzah Shittim? The Amem said that the Nekuda of the Mishkan is the Tachas Ekavon of Lashes Leis Baruch Dira V'Tachtin. That the lowest, the Tachtinim, the Helam Hester V'Lokos, that should be a Keli, that should be a Dira to Ein Sof. So does the fire, that's what we see in the Eifen Tzuras HaMishkan, in the Binyan HaMishkan, the Chaymer from what the Mishkan was built, that it has to be made Dafka from Asi Shittim, Shtus D'Lumazeh, Elam HaSheker. And was besteht Aved, the last is Shtus D'Lumazeh, V'Sheker Elam, is also Machen Keresh. Yeah, the figure was Meirach also that this Keresh is the same as a Sheker, as Arichas in the Hamshach of Davshin Yud. Keresh shall Asi Shittim Aimdim. And then we see here that Rem is not only the Indian of that the Kavana is, Nem der Tachtin, and the Tachtin should be take the Sheker of Elam Hazah, and the Sheker of Elam Hazah should be a Keli Telakus. It should be a Dirah, but we also see in the Indian of Atze Shittim Aimdim that the Nekuda is that the Tachtinim zal mehr sein der Etzem, the Ein Sof. That's the Pshat. The Lashon HaPosek is Atze Shittim Aimdim. That if to take from the Atze Shittim, they should become Aimdim. But Dugmas HaAmud, the beam, which is Mechaber, the Ritzvas HaKarka Mgei VaAgag, Li is Ge'echad Mamash. So that's the Nekuda over here. You see that the Kavana is to make from the Sheker Elam, the Shittim, it should be Nisached Betachtas Lelukus, and the ultimate highest dargis in Lelukus, the B'chinas Agag. It does is in them Bashtet Aveda V'Yid. That's one part. Now the Fidik Rebbe continues. Kivan Shaveda Zunasa Devi Abnei Yisrael. Thus is the Aveda V'Yid to take in Yonah Elam, make them a Keli Lelukus, and a kill to them at some Lelukus. So that's also why that's in them Bashtet Aveda in their fiber and Yidden Ungerufen V'Amikol and Tzadikim. That's why Yidden are called Tzivis Havai. It's at this Indian. Because the Aveda is to make the Tacht and Adira Leis Baruch. Tzava Yesh Begimel Pirush. One Pshat is Lashon Chayil. The Hainu Anshe Chayil Kipshatay. The Rebbe is not married, but the Fidik is Mevayer by Riches over there. Since we have to be Mahapech Shtuz D'Lumazeh, so therefore the Aveda has to be done in a way of also L'mayla Mitam B'das. If we'd be dealing with making, with the rational things or in Yonah Machar, which their hanhag is al pi seichel, al pi derech hayashar. So a yid be able to do his aveda al pi seichel a reisweisen that elukus is the emes, and b'meile the tachton would be nispal mitzad the emes of elukus. Since we're dealing with the aveda to make a tachton, which is a sheker, which is a shtus dulumazeh. On das darf man haper sein, so the aveda has to be done in a way of shtus shelamayla mitam vedas. Al derech the inyan of anshi chayil, ish chayil is not that he has to understand the pekudas and he has to understand why this matara is a legitimate matara to fight. The Nekuda of Anshi Chayil is that his whole inyan is to carry out the heroes of the general, of the mafakid. He doesn't have a day mitzvah. So since the Aveda's last is to make from the Shtuz Dulumaz, from the Tacht, Adoz Levan Adirulei Zbarich, the fire are not Yidin Hungry offensive as Hashem. So the first thing is that because we're dealing with Shtuz Dulumaz, that there's Zaina Anshi Chayil Kipshutei, that his whole mitzvah is that he's a soldier, that he's in Yoni is durfin the kavanah of the mafakid, whether he understands it or not based on his seichel. And then another pshat in Sava is Lashon Zman Mukbal. That's also the difference of Bekeshel is that since the kavanah is to being in a lukus lamata, so the aveda has to be done bisman amakim, ba'agbala, bisman amakim. The kavanah is to bring a lukus lamata, and the lashon tzivyon can be tzivyonim nibrush, unin hayofi, the iskalos mikol agavim. This also has to be done b'derech iskalos al yidin zusammen, not each one ba'atzmi. Einish evish beim mal ben Yisrael savedo. Shtotze besavaye shezu yam kham Allah fes khashak elom nekeresh mishkan ulas es meim der leis barich veshchanti beseicham hareza vedasim es manamok ubeifn shel skalos. This is the first two maimarim of it's four maimarim. You have the Yud Shvat, Purim, and this maimer Shimshon Lach is which maimer? The Yud Shvat, and then before Purim. Yud Shvat, then it's Purim. So here starts Perek Yud. So now mamshich besifim shel achri is sagt er sich kdei shbnei yisod yuchlu na alas amacham beifin shel nitzach in kinel zen neistem lehem es reicher samelech. So in order for the Muhammad to be done in a way of nitzach, that means to win over the menagid, for this you have an onkem and su eitzres. Of them gitman eitzres samelech. Maktem levayr shikrin an nitzach in hu begadol dafke. V'chol mi shegadol yeser yesh etzli midas hanitzach in yeser. ועד שהמלך שהגדול שבעם ישיך ממעל לגביה מכל העם, הנה אס למידס הניצח in the base. Maybe doesn't understand, but the Kodesh Advarim Meshidikah says there that there is midas hanetzach. Nitzachin is that there's that it's negeya. That a person has a certain rotzen, let's say, he wants something, and there's a menaged that's fighting against the rotzen, or they're haltnish. If a person, let's say, is a melech that wants kach v'kach, there's a menaged which that thinks that rotzen is wrong, or it's nishkin richtig gezah. So the melech has the midas hanitzachim, that he has this tchuna that it's negatim to win over the menaged and to show that his rotzen, this is the emes, and the menaged is nish the emes. You mevatel the menaged, and this tchuna that a person has the midas hanitzachim, that a person has a takeif, he has an urge to overcome a menaged to a certain daya, to a certain rotzen, to his way of life, a menaged, that he has an urge iberkum in the menaged, and to show that his way is right. This midas hanitzachim is more by a gadol and not by a and the more the gadol sa'adam, the more you have midas hanitzachim. So in Pashas, it's not the figure attaches raised there. It's a little bit negated. I'm just coming to this to the Maimer here. So we'll, it's glad to just say a few words that. So you have in Pashas say a person that's a schwacher mensch. So he wants something, and someone is menaged and doesn't, and stopping him from carrying out his rotzen. So someone's stopping him, so he's a weak person. He wants it, and someone's stopping him, so he's not going to fight with the takeif. Someone that's more margish, a person that has more takeif atzmai, and her heart von sich. So let's say if he wants something and someone else is stopping him, so he's going to go with the whole takeif and fight the other person. So the more a person takes himself seriously, and the more his mitzias and his yeshes, his nergash is more of an ishaz, more of a starker mensch. So if someone's going to try to block from him to carry out his ratzin, he's going to go fight against them with the ganze take. But nicht wegen dem Rebbe Rebbe. What figure is Meir here is the midas hanitzachim is dafka by a gadol, and dafka by a melech the mishich mevamal legavei mikolam. It doesn't mean a gadol in the sense of someone that's more of an az, someone that's more of a bagayv, or someone that's more of a azus, osher yana azus, someone that's strong-minded or strong opinion, attack it. Peter is saying we're doing a different type of takeif, and that's Iker the midas hanitzachon is, you say someone that he's not munach in himself. The figure was Meir over the Talmud Chacham that the Gemara says Kol Talmud Chacham she'enim neikim v'neitzek enochosh is a problem. Talmud Chacham has to be neikim v'neitzek enochosh. So if you think about that, what does it mean Talmud Chacham? That idea that his whole mitzias is the emes of Torah. He doesn't have his own personal mitzias. Sein ganze Indian, his whole life is that the Eibish's Ratzon should be in dem besteht sein Ratzon that liegt in the emes, liegt in the, he's munach in the Indian, he's munach in Torah, he's munach in the Eibish's Ratzon. He's not munach in himself. So the more a person is devoted to the emes of an Indian, the more it's negeh when someone's menagid, when someone's is fighting against the Ratzon Elyon, or someone doesn't understand the Ratzon like him. So the more he has the tnuah that he must bring out that the Ratzon Elyon is kach v'kach, that Seichel HaTorah is kach v'kach. The more that someone, you see, they were saying, you see, the figure brings over the Talmud Chacham, but the more someone is, is more ideological. He's not a fakert, he's living for a certain cause. So the more a person is living for a certain cause, he's not munach in himself, the more it's negeh him that is also chareis weisen, it should be seen the truth of this cause and the emes of this Indian. And someone that's menagid, he's not gonna relax until the menagid is also gonna realize that he's wrong and the emes is the value that he's living for. So we're not dealing with someone that the reason why he has mitzvah is because what's hasty one against me. How could you go against me? And his mitzvah is so betaken, then his mitzvah is to take it. How are you talking about against me? We're talking about a different nekudah. We're talking about that someone that lives for a certain ideal. And the more bas hecher hey is, the more it's meir by him, and the more his mitzvah is not what plays a role, but the more what's negeh is the emes of the Indian, the emes of the value that he lives for. And then when someone is living for a certain emes, for a certain value, he cannot handle when there's a menagid to this value. So it brings up midas hanitzachon to overpower the menagid, and to show that the value that he's living for, does it emes, and to show that and the menagid hotish kenot. It's negate him to bring out that the emes, that this is the emes, a whole different type of Indian. You heard the Indian. So the Rebbe brings there that ikri na Muhammad. The Rebbe is going to where am I holding? He's saying the Rebbe is starting to explain that in order to have the Muhammad, the way of nitzachon, is that it's negate to win over the menagid. There's someone that opposes this shita. And you cannot handle that there's someone that opposes this shita. You say someone that cannot handle that there's yidden that don't their hair the amitas of alakus. You can't handle people that don't their hair the amitas of alakus. And he's not going to be nach until he's going to show that the Eibishter does it the emes. There shouldn't be anybody that doesn't leicht nicht begili the emes of alakus. So the more by someone is negatim the amitas inyan, the more he has midas hanitzachon that he cannot handle anybody that's on opposition to the inyan, and he's going to do kol asher le'el yadi to bring out that the Ratzon Elyon or the Das HaTorah does it the emes. He's not going to handle a menagid. So if someone that is whole, someone that's not munach in Inyan, is munach in himself. So then, if someone's going to be against him, he's not going to go to fight a menagid. Huh? Who? Someone that's Yeshem Tzias Barma, but he's not on the risk of losing all his friends. Let's say. If he's a yer, so he has other considerations besides winning over the menagid. He wants people to like him. There's other cheshbonos. He wants this guy to like him, wants that guy to like him. So if he's not going to risk his whole life in order to be menatzer, someone that emenish negeh, he has no mitzias for himself. The emes negeh, the emes of alakus. Someone that wants something. Any mitzias is mukbul. So a person has a strong rotz. He has a big yeshes. How strong could the yeshes be? Epes hagbal lahatas. And you say even in Pash the Cheshbainis, he's not going to go to win over a menagid. He's going to go break all his cards. He cares about his mitzvahs. Mashiach, here we're dealing with a yid. They were saying it depends how great you are. The more someone's gadol, the more. So areis weisen dem emes, and to be mevatel anybody which opposes the emes. As areis, it should be clear, it should be open that the Ratzon Elyon does their emes. He'll give away everything for it. He's ready to avegem in zichen ganzen because there's nothing in his life about himself. Emes nar negeh the Indian. That's why he's meshich me v'mayad gavay mikolam. It says, "Makim levar shikin na nitzachon begadol davke. V'chol mi shegadol yeser yesh etzle midas hanitzachon yeser." It says, "V'ad she'amelech she'agadol sheba'am meshich me v'mayad gavay mikolam. Hini etzle midas hanitzachon beyeser." What's the attachment to meshich me v'mayad gavay mikolam? That you see, Parsha means that Shaul Melech was pasha taller. His shoulder was higher than the head of the whole lamb. But Chassidus teaches that Shechmei's midas, that Shaul's midas was higher than the meichin of the entire lamb. Steht am other word that what's the pshat in them? That bechlal meichin is the tnu bittul, that a person is not the only code that you want to understand according to what the emes is. The person's interest in the truth, not in his own self. And midas is what's good for me, what's how I feel about it. So midas is the person's mitzias, and meichin is the tnu bittul that a person has, that he lives for a certain value, that he cares about the Indian, not about himself. So the melech's midas, the melech's mitzias is higher than the bittul and the meichin of kolam. His mishich mevamali gavaya mikolam means that the melech's mitzias, the melech's bittul is a whole different caliber. His mitzias is higher than the bittul of the entire Ram. So what I want to bring out, the take of midas anitzachon is the more it's meir ba'yid, the emes of alakos, the midas ha'inyan, he doesn't base his life around his mitzias. But is meir, but take if the emes of alakos, or let's say if we're not dealing in kedusha, so let's say if emes negei a certain value, and he really cares about it, you say a melech, the original musik of a melech, that he lives for a certain cause, he's not stuck in his own pniyas. So the more a mensch is negei the cause, the emes, and is not negei himself, the more he won't be able to handle a mitzias of someone being menagid to this truth, to this svara. The more the vinziger the herz of sein mitzias, and the more his life is about the Indian, the emes of the Indian, the tiferes werter herter mitzvah Indian, the more you can handle someone that opposes this emes. Someone that the emes is nicht mehr mit der ganze Teikev, so he believes in the emes, he's sure the Eibusher is true. Emes are hatish derfun. Someone's menaged to that idea. Someone doesn't agree that the Eibusher is the emes. It was not going to bother him. He'll be able to survive. A Talmid Chacham that his whole mitzias is seichel HaTeira, the whole mitzias is the emes of Teira, he has to be nekem and kenachash. If there's someone that's a menaged to the emes of Elokus, he can't handle it. And he's not going to be relaxed until it's going to be open and clear everywhere, even b'makla menaged, that the emes is with the emes from Teira, the Indian. That's a different type of mitzvah. You heard the meaning? Dafki godless doesn't mean godless. Mean that he's a person which is a greater self. He's more that's called an az. That's not greatness. That's katnus. It means katnus means a person that's the only thing that he cares about is his own self. So there's nothing beyond his own little self. That's not godless. That's not greatness. That's a kleiner mensch. I mean, godless, someone that's a big macho man. Godless means that he has echos. He has qualities. He lives for an ideal. He lives for an Indian. Oh, so he says, Mavayr, so the figure says there that she has shnei ifanim milcham. Two ifanim of war. We're talking about two malachim. So the ein start milcham shein yanu lish lo shalav lovas bas. Aval ikran in milcham ul naseach zamanagit. You have one type of war. That why does a melech go to war? Because he wants to be marcher malchusa. He wants to gain riches, and he wants to be marcher the shetach. That's lish lo shalav lovas bas. So then that's not a milcham. He's not eisen to win over the menagid. Let's say he'll be able to get this shalom. Let's say he wants to get shalom. He wants to get the greisa eitzes which exists, the eitzes of gas, oil that exists over there. He's not eisen to fight the menagid. He wants to have the oil. So Levi to be able to get the oil without fighting, without showing that he's correct, without showing that he's stronger. He's going to go for it. And the milchama. The milchama is just he wants to get the oil. He has to be leichem. If we're able to get it without being leichem, we'll be very, very, very happy. The main milchama is that he cannot handle there's a managid. That's midas anitzachon. Not that he's looking to get some schayra from there. He cannot handle that there's a managid which dart nicht meir the emes of the way the emes has to be. Does bother them. That there's a person in the world that doesn't agree with the truth. He cannot handle that, and he has to be menatzeach. A yener zal der head in the emes. It's a whole different Indian. I don't know if you have a zolch milchamas hand. That's what we're dealing with. So, and the Rebbe says, so that's ikri in Amucham, l'natzeach es amanagid. Yeah, there's more l'shenes. You have the shenes, the figure of his maimer, in Tafshin Yud, lo hetzik echeftzei. I don't know if you remember these, but the figure attaches the prati is that the Melchama, which in Yana is nitzachen, is, the purpose of the Melchama is, lo hetzi nitzchayne. Means, areizvai, it should be clear, and should be clear the emes. The emes of what the Melech, his emes, does al meir zayn umedum. There shouldn't be a menagid for it. And this tenua that there shouldn't be a menagid to the emes is negeh to the primius hamelech. Yeah, that's not what there was invited this maimer. This is the maimer there. It says mechalukish b'neihem melchama, which in Yoni is l'shashav v'lovas baz. So the Refikam is another chiluk between if the nikud of the melchama is because he cannot handle the menagid, or the nekuda of the Melchama is to get certain schayra which exists by the Menagid, or to be marchiv malchusa. So if it's to be marchiv malchusa, that's a Melchama al pi seichel. So you have to know, the Melech is not going to risk what he has in order to get more shalom. He's going to have to make a cheshbon. Is it worth it to go to war? He wants to go get certain oil. So you have to know how much risk is worth taking in order to get that result. He's going to have cheshbonis. So in such a, if an adz shaykh in shel cheshbon, kam yechedom lashkir b'mechama, b'even sheyadav kedai if erech hashalom v'abiza. But das is outside the thing. The melchama which in Yoni is laharchiv malchusa. Then there's another type of melchama. So if we're dealing with laharchiv malchusa, that's not neget the pnimius hamelech. But we're dealing kasher melchama is v'lina seich samanagid eps frana menagid. There is someone that opposes the emes of the melech, and the melech there's the midas hanitzachim iber komen the menagid. The point is that to be mevatel the menagid, that the emes of the melech that should be begoli bekol malkin. So this Inyan of Farazah Inyan that it should be Menatzeach as Zain Kirtzoinoi, that his Ratzon, the emes of his Ratzon, should be in his Gale, this Inyan has no Agbolos. That's Neget, the Pnimius Va'atzmius HaMelech. Azim Mevazvius HaMelech is Kol HaEtzris. There's no Agbolos. There's no Cheshbenis, there's no Agbolos. Git Havek Alts. Till his life itself. He's ready to risk everything for this Inyan. Does the Tifter Inyan, Iber Kumet Menagit. That there shouldn't be a place where his emes is not Meir Begol. So then the Melech Zaz is Kol HaEtzris. When there's no menag, we're not dealing with being mevatel menagid. So the melech is manik malchusa. That's the etzem in of our chovas malchusa. Dorten wird nicht daris gebracht the pnimius hamelech. That when we're dealing with the menagid and to overpower the menagid, that Indian touches and that brings out the deepest core of the melech, and he's ready to give away his whole life because his whole life is the emes. The chanish negeh is but he's ready to give away everything for this for the nitzachon menagid. Avakash Melchama Gishlan Seich Menagid Ad Mevaz Melchas Kol Eitz Hey Neis Gives Atzme Hey Neis Gives Avos Med Chashon Der Der Asher Luli in Nayis Hanit Tzachim is the Ini Mitzad Atzme the Inyanim of the Eis Mitzad Atzme Leis Vavad Shem Mishtamshem Behem. Not only they're not a Inyanim of use. Yes, certain the king has storage there that in case there's going to be a hunger, he's going to use this Eitzer of Kesef. They have different Masha'ink, and these Inyanim are not there for use. Not only that, certain things are not there for use. The Evan should be Kesser HaMelech, the crown. It's not there for use. That in the case there's the Melech needs that's negeh for the Yefi HaMalchus. It's higher than using it for Tzrachim of the Anshe Medina. That's negeh to the Yeker HaMelech itself. But it's in Yonim Shemar Demeisa. Then there's a Zelchatayr, there's Achen, that Afilu Lei Mar Demeisa. They're very having these Eitzres, that's negeh to the Melech. So they're not for show, it's not for anything. It's negeh to the Guf HaMlucha itself. It's the deepest Inyanim which the Melech contains within himself. Not only he uses out these eitzres, the Esha Otzra, Avesa, but he's even a bizbus. It attaches bizbus hays that he's not a bizbus means that you think a person's say this soldier has to go to war. So we're going to think according to the position that he is, which chaymer, which eitzres, or how much he should spend. Bizbus means that there's no cheshbainis. Any position, any cause for this war, he gives away. He's not going to be machshiv how much is being spent, which parts of what aitas are being given. A gitavek alts on cheshbenis. Yeah, this brought him in them, but on cheshbenis. Mivaz is itzreisa. Today, what's the purpose? Sha'ansi atzav yifalu is an itzach namucham. Kvish mevayers aval pishin this in the stages what they start at kidim shem kidei chayil. Even yet, that's the nisim. The aitas being given to the nisim. But the kavana is she'eitzes yagiu la'anshei achayil, anshei atzav, shehem davke esim es hanitzachim v'lachamti shel hamelech. So that's the Rebbe spoke that davke v'deres achei achenim this nekud of nitzachim that would be mevatel of menagit, that in every nekud of ba'elam there shouldn't be a stirat halakus. So the chayin the remes halakus b'kol makom ba'elam. For this in of nitzachim menagit that's neged to the etzem hamelech, and for this he's mevazviz is kol ha'eitzres and was alkanin iberkum and the nitzachim menagit. So this is so Lohavin. So now Lohavin in Eitzer Lamayla. They verstehen what it means the Rimshel. B'chinas ha'Eitzer that Eitzer Elgin, which is nitan to the Anshe Achayil to Yidden. They Eitzer Iberkum the have the Nitzachon of the Melchama of last days or the Rebbe Tachlin Biatel the Menagit the Vilam Hazeh. So he's maktem Levay and Maimer at the Konizeh. Was steht in the Konizeh? Steht dort in der Ein Sof. Ein Sof is the Maila the Ketzel Mata the Tachlis. The Eibisher's is Ein Sof. And his Ein Sof is expressed, his Ein Sof is in two modes. Sai, his Ein Sof in the sense that he's Lamata Mata Aditachlis, he's bleak full Lamata. and that is bligvol l'mayla adin ketz. Yeah, we'll see that for this. So the Rebbe is like this. Mevayer tchfitika first is mevayer ha'inyan d'lamata adin tachlis. And he teaches Zoyes that what's the inyan d'lamata mata adin tachlis that koi ala gilei v'hispashtus. That you see the Eid itself is Ein Sof, and his Ein Sof is begilui, is seen, is expressed biz lamat bligvol lamata mata. Means infinite low, in the infinite lowest places, umedum, there's vert nisgale, vert areis gebracht, the Ein Sof of Elokus. See, Ein Sof, so the Eir is Ein Sof, is Pasha B'tachas Apshitas, he has no tzir. Then we're adding another point, where is this Eir seen? Where is it nisgalos? It's nisgale lamata mata adin tachlis. Blig volo, and even though it's lamata mata ad ein tachlis, blig volo, so the Eir is nisgale ad lamata mata. There's kama pratim in the lamata mata adin tachlis. So that's even clothing. Tekoya lagile v'hispashtus ad lamata mata madregas hayeser achenes v'yeser tachtenes. So that's one idea. That's last year's perek tezvov, mevayer ha'inyin the l'mayla adin ketz. What's the pshat? How is he mevayer perek tezvov l'mayla adin ketz? In helam ha'er v'helam acher helam v'ile acher ilichul. Fakir. There is one to know where there is that Ein Sof, that the air is begili b'kol makom. I think it was Meirich over there in two prakim that even the klippes achitach tainis v'atam achayes kulam. There's this galus of Ein Sof in the lowest of the low. There's gili Ein Sof. Le'idach, there's another tnu in Ein Sof that is bligvul behelim. That his Ein Sof, his qualities or whatever the air is contained within himself, and he has the ability to hide himself that he shouldn't be mayor anywhere. And the helamis are also an eifin of bligvul. Bligvul in the kav of helim v'is almoser. There's infinite inyanim of helim achar helim of the fact that the air is bis almos, that he's not present, he's not felt, and his mitzvah is not nirgash. So there's two kavim, so to speak, where the bleak vol of the air is expressed. One kav that the bleak vol of the air is expressed in the fact that he's begoli, bleak vol. He's meir b'kol makim u'makim, the lowest of the low. Another eifin is that in vaz diktzachais, the bleak vol of the air, that he could believe shum hagbala to hide himself. You say something that's someone that has a kerech hagvura, a limited kerech hagvura. So even when he's hiding himself, somewhat of his character has to be seen. He doesn't have the ability to conceal himself fully. The Eibish's midas hagvura, the Eibish's helim is l'mayla adin ketz. He could hide himself, he could contain himself within himself on ashir. That there shouldn't be anything visible outside, like that the Eidus shouldn't be nirgash. She gave us kama pratim in the helomis, in the fact that the Eidus is bis almos. That's the two kavim of lamata mata adin tachlis and l'mayla adin ketz. Says now, so the Rebbe's Navar, why is the Friedrich Rebbe Meirich so much? He's Meirich two prakim, and they get to the Lamata Mata Adin Tachlis, Erin Sof, Lamata Mata Adin Tachlis, and he's Meirich to explain the Maila Adin Ketz. He says, Hainu Kib and Shinyani Shala Eitzer. What's the Nukot of an Eitzer? Eitzer means that it's hidden in the mashal. Eitzer is that it's softened v'tomim. Komos v'chosum me'in korei. So there is in the Nimshama, the Eitzer is in Yonim which are higher than Geder Gilui. The pnimis of Elokus, which is higher than his galus. So azal chasart ninyan, which are none of eitzar, they lead Allah havin ba'emikes. Zal havin a tifra verstand. Hayeker shel inyan akomos, in order to zal havin a tifra avan in the tayerkeit of the behalten, the Rebbe's lashon, the behalten. Tzarich levayer tchila yeker shel inyan agol. Chem levayer tchila inyan l'mata adin tachlis, which the inyan l'mata adin tachlis is in a very spashis vagili, which is an eitzar. And then he's mevayer ha'inyin l'mayla diketz. Shenis almos ha'er ve'eskalos batzmus izbar. The tnuah of helim ve'esalmos. So this is v'efen klali b'saret in the Lester Purple. Can you get weiter or no one has any questions on before? We'll go further, okay. Mamshach ba'amayim sagt azeh. Hine based in Yanim Elo the Erin Sof, Lamayla Adin Ketz Lamata Mata Adin Tachlis, the Fidik writes in the beginning of Perek Zion, him base Madreges by Erin Sof Baruch Hu V'Shefresh Gadol B'Neim. So the Rebbe touched us, V'Inim Bezeh. The Hine Ad Atan is boy was the Pirush Erin Sof Lamayla Adin Ketz Lamata Adin Tachlis, Kvishu Kipshutei. There was not Kipshutei in Pshat of Pshat Shemikra, Meretach being Mavayr Pshat in the Maimer of Tikkun Zayir, which is Nister Derais, which is Kabbalah Tikkun Zayir. But within Zayir itself, is what he was required in Perek Tezvav, is derech hapshat b'nister the Torah. The simple meaning, so to speak, of the inyan of Eid in Sof l'mayla mayla adin ketz. But what's the pshat? What's the birapi pshat in the inyan of Eid in Sof l'mayla mayla adin ketz? She'eid in Sof Eid l'mayla mayla v'nimshach l'mata mata. She'aliyah l'mayla v'amshach l'mata and bebeis mekemis nefradim. Yeah, that's in the when the Rebbe says the Maimer, it doesn't say this lashon. I don't think beis mekemis nefradim. But in the this lashon is from the Rebbe wrote the Rashi Prakim to the Maimer. So there the Rebbe says this lashon that mechadish leila ma'ala matak beis mekemis nefradim kimim makam echad. The eifa be'eritzach. We'll have to see the. What's the pashut dvarim that he says here? Before we get into the two mekemis or one makim, what's the simple avana that he's saying? They have the hanachim, just listen to the memory. I'm not going to go into the different hanachas over here because then it's severe as a bill. But what's the before we get into the musik of two mekemis and one makim? What's the pashut dvarim that the Rebbe says in the memory? What's retter bis it's there when you get what's the pshat lamayla and kes lamata den tachlis that we're dealing with not lamata den tachlis means that the air is begili become makim. He's mispashet, he's present lamata mata, he's present in the lowest of the low. The Eid itself is Ein Sof, which means that the Eid itself has no tzir. He's pasha b'tachas apshitas. He's Ein Sof. And now, lamata mata tachas is, where is this Eid present? That he's Meir ad Ein Sof. He's Meir and mispashet ad Ein Sof. He's seen and he's Meir ad Ein Sof. What's the ma'ala ad Ein Ketz? That the Ein Sof of the Eid is contained within himself, and he's blig vo beis almos. Blig vo not present. So when we say, so what's the tuinan of Lamaila and Lamata? Whether he's Begili or whether he's Behelim. Not two inyanim in the Eid itself. When they say if something's Begili or Behelim, you're saying you have a certain inyan. Is this inyan, is the Zulas, let's say, aware of this inyan or is not aware of this inyan? Is this inyan open or this inyan is not open? Is it Begili or not Begili? You're not saying that there's two inyanim within this inyan itself. The inyan itself is not about whether it's open or not. Open or not is whether this inyan, which what you're dealing with, whether it's expressed or not expressed. So that's not two inyanim in the Eir Gufa. The Eir is the Eir, whatever the Eir is. And the two Tnuas are whether this Eir is expressed everywhere or it's not expressed at all. Or is where is this Eir present? Is he present in Eilamis or he's present in Etzem? His Niskala Batzmusa. In this parak is saying that the Ma'ala Mata is in the Eir Gufa there's two inyanim. In the Eir Ein Sof, there's two inyanim of the Ma'ala Mata. We're not dealing with Biyachas whether he's expressed or not, or this one inyan, whether it's expressed or not expressed. We're saying that the Eir contains within himself two inyanim. Huh? Yeah, it's not a gather of Salmus. Not the fact that he's not nirgash, that he's hidden from someone else. Not this inyan, whether it's hidden or not. If you Taichas in the Perek Tezvav, L'mayla Mala Deketz means that the Eir, it's Shlilas Eir, that the Eir is not Meir. The Eir is not Bizgalis. He's not expressed. So we're not saying there's another inyan in the character of the Eir itself. We're saying this inyan was the same thing we're saying when you get to Mata Mata. This inyan, whether it's hidden, whether it's open or it's hidden, whether it's begillah or not begillah. Here we're saying that there's two inyanim in the Eir Gufa. That's the Aderez. That's what the Rebbe says in the Lashon in the Yifashev Zok. So here, I just want to touch up the words of the way the Rebbe says in the Maimer. So if you have they have the Anacham Ilulas here, just to see the. Huh? Where is it? Welche page? Oh, there it is. Thus, of them, this no one could have any asagas. This is Nacham Elulis. Is just the. Where is it? You just look at this. Das is nicht immer gerade für das Ehren Sefer Nimshach in Maila means that is in the alien. The same Indian is Nimshach la Maila or Yered Lamata. In Erin Savir it is. It means in the Indian Kameshu Ba'atzmi. Not the way whether he's expressed or not expressed. In the Indian itself, there's two inyan. So it's not Gil and Helam is not the Indian itself. Whether he's expressed or not expressed. Whether this Indian is Nimshach Lamayla or Nimshach Lamata. Here we're saying in the Eir Vir it is the Eir Kameshu, there's two inyanim there. There's Lamayla, Lamata, Mata. That's but the Rebbe adds here, this is from the Rashi Prakim, that if you say that the Nakoda is that the Eir is Mizgala or the Eir is Misalim, so the his Amos and the Gilei are in two separate places. Can't be the same Inyan. Gilei and Helam Retman, whether the Zulas is Margishim or the Zulas is not Margishim. So where the Zulas senses him is one makim. We're not dealing with the two inyanim in the eir itself. We're dealing with two inyanim legab the eir, the way whether he's Meir in the zulas or not Meir in the zulas. So one makim he's Meir and another makim he's not Meir. Whether there's a zulas which is permeated with him and a zulas which is not permeated with him. Here we're dealing with not the two inyanim in the eir, whether he's felt by someone else or not. The eir itself has two inyanim. Bali keshet to the way it relates to someone else experiencing it. In the eir gufa there's two inyanim. So that's two inyanim in the same makim. But the pshat is in makim echad. Okay, we're going to have to see the pshat in makim. But the issue here is, on one hand, you say there's two madrigas. However the Rebbe is going to touch what it means two madrigas. But the Rebbe when say two madrigas, by definition it means that it's two separate places. So there's seichel and midas. It's on the top floor or the first floor. The seichel and midas is two separate inyan. So it's two separate energies, two separate keiches. It's a strebas under the inyan. The Rebbe is saying here that it's in one makim. One makim means it's the same eir. It's one eir in itself. And in this eir, there's two madrigas. So if there's two madrigas, there's let's say whatever the two madrigas are. But two madrigas, let's say, is the eir blikvol and the eir gvol. So the zwei eirs. So it's not a makim echad. So on one hand, we're saying that it's in makim echad. That it's in one eir in itself. There's two madrigas. That's on one hand. And with that we're gonna have to understand. But b'yachadim zeh, the Rebbe brings right away that the Frierdiker Rebbe says that there's shtei madrigas. The Eretz of Atzmei and Beis madrigas. But not only that it's two madrigas, v'lo ed lo shesh hefresh gadol b'nei. So, umizem move on. I mean, from the fact they say mokim echad, volt geven asvaras to sagen they were dealing with the b'chin of yichelis. Without going into the prat, but in yichelis you say that there's the lahoyer and the shalei lahoyer are all one inyan. That the etzem is not mukdir, that the etzem is not defined. So it's all one inyan. But if we're speaking about so makim echad means it's one inyan, it's one ein sof. You're saying that it contains within itself two inyan, but he's not mukdir. The nikud of yichelis is that the fact that he has the yichelis for kama inyanim is all as a result of the fact that he's ein sof, that he's not defined. We'll discuss this if you just want to bring up the cheshbon advarim. So from the fact that you say that it's in one eir, it's not two dargas, not two eirs. In one eir, there's two madrigas. So the hadgash of one makim echad, so that passes more in Eichelis. In Eichelis, the two inyanim are all as a result of one akud of the hedrak dar of the etzem. Because the eir is ein sof, he's not defined. Therefore, there could be any trua. Something which is defined could only contain within himself one kav, whatever suits his character. Something that's not defined could be silem, ayla, silem, could have two madrigas. But the Rebbe says with the Frierdiker, so that would explain Takadavar that it's a makom echad. That it's not two eiris. We're not dealing with two madrigas and eir. We're dealing with one eir, one inyan, one ein sof, which this ein sof is the ma'il olamata. But the Frierdiker Rebbe says shehin shtei mahim beis madrigas. Use lashon two madrigas. If it's a chelis, nishaycher zogen of them zwei madrigas. Because in the chelis, one akud, it's the head ragdor of the ein sof of the etzem. So this is the lashon hein beis madrigas. That means that we're not dealing with yichelis, we're dealing with eir, a lower darga than yichelis. And the fact you say b'yesh hefresh gadol b'nei. If we're dealing with the fact that it's b'makom echad, the fact that it's one inyan, is because we're dealing with yichelis that the etzem is not mugder. So there it's not shaykh to say two madrigas, and even American b'deichak zog in the lashon tzvei, but you can't say there's a hefresh gadol b'nei. Muslim zogin amered v'gen eir. I'm speaking about eir and aval b'kein. So on one hand we're saying that it's one eir, it's b'makom echad. Either we're saying that it's two madrigas in this eir and yesh hefresh gadol b'nei. So this is what has to be understood.
Why can't you opposite two must be hefresh gadol?
In Yechelis, it's not opposite. It's the Rekud of Yechelis is. Okay, you have to understand a little bit what Yechelis is. But Lammers, ich will uptouchen für the cheshbon afshat. To mevinim ha cheshbon. Huh? No, the cheshbon advarim. Why are you saying it in Hebrew? You're saying it with after shregim l'chla. Atem mesim mechash beis in yonim del ma'ila. Atem gets matar atem tachas yesh nem gam b'makim echad. בארץ כפי שהוא בעצמי, בארץ עצמי, אני just touch the חשבון הדברים, the עברית a little bit. בארץ עצמי בייס מדרגס. אז ולא עדל שיש שפר גדול. מזה מובן, שאין כוונה, was the Rebbe being said, אין כוונה in Eichelis. I mean, for was wird getracht das in Eichelis? Because there's sagt that it's in ein Sof Atzme. So it's ein Indian. But man gemacht, like the Rebbe writes in the Rashi plug. So über ze wird gedacht, got mehr gepasst, that Eichelis. Because he's not, there's bicholte later to Liz Galis, or bicholte shalei later to Liz Galis. But after the Kenners are going to have for us, because in Eichelis and in the Echot, she's a base Tnuas. But you can't say there's two Madrigas. A few lum nitchik, lema she base Madrigas and Hanu base Tnuas, Mikon kim Ef Shalema she Shepherd's God Lebanon. She Shari Amitis Eichelis, even she Yochel Kach, Yochel Kach, Beif and Hafchi B'Shave, the Lay Hefresh Klal. But Korchat Sarach Lema Shum do Madrigas Shalmatim in Eichelis, but this we're going to have to understand two pratim. In Tzadechad we're saying that it's Mokem Echad, Zasheni we're saying it was two Madrigas, so the Rebbe is going to touch up Behemshech. Oh. So just a couple of words, just when they get to the touch what is ever saying Gechelis. I'm just to push the touch. When you say that the difference between a balkeach and someone is yochel, balkeach means a person has the ability to understand. Let's say, why? How does he have the ability to understand? Because he has a keach haseichel. He has a keach which in yoni of this keach is it's formed for the sake of understanding, or he has midas ava, which as a result of midas ava can lipa. When you say yochel, you say in this Bisla Graba Mashal, just to bring out the Mashal, you say someone a yochel. Not a yochel means that he knows how to figure himself out in different situations. Not that you say someone he has if the truck that breaks down, he'll know how to take care of it. He'll know how to. A yochel means when you say yochel, it's not that the fact that he's yochel is because he has the koyach for this in you. He's a yochel. He's a yochel. He's not mugder. He's not defined. The mele can else. That's what you're saying about yochel. Yochel is not that he has the power for this and he has the power for that. Power for this and power for that is that he's mugder, but he has the reason why he's able to understand because he has the keach haseichel. The reason why he's able to feel is because he has a keach of midas. So he has a keach for this, or he has a keach hatnu. He's saying an etzem which doesn't have not keich hatnu and not keich haseichel. Hot kein keiches nicht. He's beyond keiches. He's mufshit. But because he's not defined, because he's pashut, therefore he can't be shell from anything. Therefore, it can. You say can. When he's about keich means not that he could. He has the power to do it. Not that the etzem can't. You have the power to understand because you have a keich haseichel. Yechelis means the etzem is yochel. Why is the etzem yochel? Nish ba'al hot keiches. Because he's not defined. So when you say yechelis, it doesn't really. Actually, they say two tnuas. Because he's not defined, he could dance and he could keich hatnu. Not because he relates to this keich and he relates to that keich. When you say that someone is about keich means he relates to this keich, he relates to seichel. He has an element of himself which is a makar l'seichel, and he has an element of himself which is a makar for midas. Yochel means he's not defined. He's mufshid. He doesn't have an element in himself that relates to seichel, an element of himself that relates to midas. He's not defined. The Meda, whatever you have, but the Meda is able to do anything because he's not defined. You understand the meaning? So in Yechelis, it's not two in Yanim. There's no yachas to this. There's not. Let's say there's two madrigas in there. There's the era blikvol, the era gvol. Mitzad Yechelis, there's no that he has an element which relates to blikvol and an element which relates to gvol. He's ain't sof. He's not defined. If he's undefined, Mela hatarals. So he doesn't. It's not. He has blikvol and he doesn't relate to blikvol. Doesn't relate to gvol. He's undefined. He's ain't sof. But Mela hatarals. So there's not two madrig, and it's not. You can't say hefresh gadol b'neim. Say ein inyan. He's beyond blikvol and he's beyond gvul. And why does he have them? Because you can't define him because he's not mugdar. So in such so ein inyan. The ein inyan is that he's ein sof, that he's not mugdar. So there's nishach zagen that there's two madrigas. It's not two madrigas. Meretig an ein inyan, an inyan which is not mugdar. Because he's not mugdar, can all sein. There's no yachas to the tnuist that he's yochel. It's not trying to say two madrigas. Even if you're going to say that b'poel, mitzad the fact that it ain't sof, that verstehen that it's not stam that I was saying. Even if you can say that there's two tnuis, means Rebbe saying b'deicha you could call in Yechelis two madrigas because sof goes sof. The fact that he's eini mugdar, that he's not defined, is expressed in the fact that he has this and he has that. But there's no chilik ein hefresh gadol b'nei. When Yechelis the adgosha is not on the things which stem from him, on the fact that he's undefined. And the shach is saying hefresh gadol b'nei. Means that you're going to say in you're going to say there's two madrigas. That means that there is a value to the inyanim, to these two madrigas. There's one madriga of blikvol, let's say, one madriga of gvul. But leidach, even though you're saying that there's an element that relates to blikvol, let's say, an element that relates to gvul, but it's in one ain't sof. This is what the Rebbe is going to be involved. We'll see in this kata to explain these two nekudas in the